So in this video, we're going to break down the weekly watch list, mainly looking at what the bias was. So USD short, Euro USD long, USD JPY short, USD CAD short, Euro AUD long, and NZD JPY long. I'm going to look at how the pairs have developed over the week, what opportunities may have already passed and that we might have already missed. But I guess more importantly, what opportunities still remain before the end of the week. So you guys will let me know if you want to see more of these in the future. Maybe it's something I can do once a week, where I basically just benchmark the analysis against price development. And let's waste no further time and get straight into it. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button, let's get in. So just starting on the dollar index, something to note is that although, for example, here the daily is trading between these 2 points, you can see it clearly impulsive and then now corrective coming down. And so naturally would be looking for the move to the upside to complete at that external range liquidity. I was still looking for the dollar to sell off, hence, USD CHF short, Euro USD long, UJ short, UCAD short. This was all based on a bearish dollar bias, and that has a lot to do with the intraday approach that I'm trying to take to my analysis and my forecasting and trading more on a session by session basis as opposed to this longer term swing approach. And so you'll see that common theme amongst most pairs where the daily structure indicates one thing, but then my actual bias for the week is different. And yeah, that's something you got to be mindful of if you're doing any sort of top-down analysis, just so that you're trading relevant price action. So then now coming into the 4 hour, what I just noted was that we, I guess, heading into the week or closing last week, mitigated daily POI. Then Monday to Wednesday, we traded into an opposing 4 hour POI, which is where we then sold off from. And so arguably, we made that high on Wednesday during London session. So we could be seeing, in terms of our weekly range profiles, typical Wednesday high of the week in that scenario. And so could be an argument to say that we've made the high of the week on the dollar index and prices started to aggressively sell off, targeting potentially this opposing 4 hour POI, or coming back to sweep that daily low. And so we will either see then a continuation of that to the downside and subsequently the same for other pairs, or that is the move for the week. Some may be capitalized on manipulation higher, and then some have already caught this just targeting that previous area there, which I think was Tuesday's low. And so price has already moved fairly significantly, at least on the dollar index, which we use as a benchmark. And we've seen some of that play out in other pairs and not so much in a few others. So starting with USD CHF, the main bias was short here. When I look for an entry, basically the key things that I'm observing are a clear daily directional bias. So obviously then identifying just that daily range. And then at the moment, it's for once a clear daily or 4 hour POI has been mitigated, I then look for the following criteria. So looking for clear direction on the daily, like you saw previously with the range. And then where price opens, I'm looking for daily or 4 hour points of interest above and below that price action. Obviously, the daily bias is going to give me an indication of which direction I'm looking to take, but there could be a counter trend move at play. So it's not always that black and white. And then once we've mitigated that, I'm looking for a combination of a previous daily high or low to be swept. And then once that happens as well in the direction. So for example, in this case, there was, I was looking for this area here to be swept and we didn't quite get there. So maybe we can just go for from where price is at the moment. We're in this 4 hour POI, and we see this is the previous daily low here. We've mitigated that, we've swept that. So we've ticked those two boxes. What I then look for is price to be trading within a corresponding lower time frame range in alignment with the bias. So we got a 4 hour mitigation in terms of the POI. I then look for 15-minute structure to be aligned with that entry. And so we'll then look for the shift of the 15-minute structure for to then take price lower and look for entry within a 15-minute essentially POI in that range. So that's to give you an idea of the criteria I look for. In this particular case, we followed the movements of the dollar index and we sold off, and we're not obviously um, we're trading in this area, and price from a daily perspective does also look to be bullish. So on the dollar index, while we've sold off and it looks like we may continue to sell off, USD CHF is showing a different picture where we've been very impulsive, very corrective. Price has come down this week aggressively. But I think a key thing is that, yes, we swept these highs here, which were kind of Monday, Tuesday highs, nothing significant. I guess it's more of the consolidation we opened in. I think there was no key area that was mitigated before we sold off aggressively. And the fact that we have now in this 4 hour POI gives me an indication that maybe now lining up to distribute to the upside if we don't just continue lower and sell off. So I'll be waiting for obviously London session this morning. That's 8 a.m. GMT +2. And a key thing that I look for if the previous day high or low was swept prior to a session open, then I'll look for that session liquidity to be swept at the start of the session or some sort of session liquidity to be swept. So in this particular case, because we already swept the daily low, I guess an Asian session, I'm ideally looking for price to come down and sweep, the session low at London Open before then, we get the move to the upside. Or if there's any sort of significant low that's formed within that range and then we break to the upside, then I'll look for that low to be swept before we look for the entries. So yeah, USD CHF, there's a couple ways we could obviously play it, so it's more time. But Euro USD, similarly to dollar index, daily structure says let's take it lower because of the range we're playing in. But you just look at the price action within this region, the way we closed on the daily yesterday with that large wick to the downside. Similarly, then mitigating this key area below these lows, just sweeping that low here and then displacing to the upside. Those are showing all the signs of price continuing to the upside. So we're getting opposing views from price action on various pairs. And I think that's fine. You do get weeks like that. Not everything is always going to be 100% correlated. And so you've just got to trade each pair accordingly because it's a currency pair at the end of the day. There's two different currencies that are affecting the behavior of, the overall pair. And you may have moves that play out in sync, but you've still got to look at it individually to some extent. And it's more how much does it align with your plan as opposed to, how are all the pairs playing out together. And sometimes that will be relevant because correlations will be stronger at different points in time. But there are times where you've just got to look at it independently and trade the pair according to the plan. And so with this one, we broke to the upside. You can see a daily sweep of liquidity is all the way down here. So may not take it, but something I'll observe is, looking for this area to be taken out. This is a significant daily point. And this will be a swing point formation in any case. So I don't expect this to be taken out. And if it isn't, and price, forms a wick there, and then trades higher, that will actually give more confidence to the move playing out as opposed to price coming down to sweep that low. So there are cases where the previous daily high or low being swept isn't the probable scenario to play out because we are also forming a daily swing point in some areas. And so it's not necessary or even relevant for that previous daily high low to be swept. And look, yesterday already swept, multiple previous daily highs or lows, and more importantly, the previous weekly low. And so that is what I'm placing more weight on in this particular setup. And heading into London session, I'll just be looking for price to sweep this area here, and that's mitigating a 4 hour fair value gap, and then looking to take price to the upside. So Euro USD, yeah, the initial bias was long. And while something like a USD CHF has already played out quite aggressively and may potentially look to reverse, Euro USD looks like it's got a bit of steam still left in it and could go a lot further. USD JPY, not a fan of it, to be honest. It's just become very corrective over the past few weeks, and the bias here was short. Uh, but I was looking for it to come a bit higher, and it didn't really. And I still do see it playing out, but I don't think it's something I'll have on watch for today. I think because we have now almost given some sort of indication of selling off after correcting, higher within, this range here. I'll be looking for these equal lows to be swept, and that's, an old low, it's the previous week low. I'm not mistaken. It is a previous weekly low. Yeah, I'll just potentially be looking for price to sell off there. And if I can get some sort of continuation entry, then I'll look for that. But it's potentially also very similar to Euro USD, to be honest. Just that the area it's come out of in terms of the main reversal wasn't yeah. Sometimes I don't like it when price just falls from the middle of nowhere, because then there's always, the possibility that it's going to go back higher and mitigate the actual area that you initially had marked out, which would be from around there. So yeah, USD JPY playing out on the short side, but not a favorite. The USD CAD, the bias was initially short. Didn't expect it, I think, to sell off so aggressively so early in the week, but you can see playing out within, this bullish range. I like that we've now swept the previous weekly low as well as this daily order block. Um, Obviously, to potentially then break out to the upside. Could obviously only happen next week, given, how much volume we've already had this week, because you need to also think about the distribution of volume or average liquidity that we'll see in any given week. And so it's sometimes rare that you'll see a strong move into an area and then a strong move out of an area all in one week. Not to say it's not possible, but we in this area, we've swept the previous weekly low, we've swept the previous daily low now. It's ticking all the boxes. This is a daily area, so I'm then looking now for a 1 hour structural shift before I can validate this entry. So I'll be looking at price to break out to the upside there, before then identifying a POI within that range to then take the long setup from. Euro Ord, the bias was long, and price is playing out accordingly within this bullish range. You can see we've sold off quite aggressively from Monday into this discounted area. The POI is on the 4 hour strong swing point order block, and we are about to sweep. So we've swept the previous weekly low. We are pending a sweep of the previous daily low. And then because it's a 4 hour POI, I'm going to look for that 15-minute structural shift. And so that's going to align quite nicely with this previous daily low sweep. So look for that to take out this low, but then that low too. And then we look for the break of structure to the upside, and then pull back into a POI to take the trade higher. So really liking how Euro Ord could play out, and that's probably a favorite for the week. And finally NZD-JPY, which has done absolutely nothing. This was long, the price was long, and we have just been correcting sideways. Could potentially get, so normally when that's the case, it's like consolidation, breakout Thursday, sort of weekly range profile. And so I am still looking for this to trade to the upside. We are within a tight range, so the previous day low is going to easily get swept. But I'm really looking for this consolidation low to be swept into I think this order block, which is positioned quite nicely just below the consolidation. So I'm going to look for a push to the downside. It's obviously a 4-hour area, so you understand the low time frame correlation that I'm looking for. Um, that shift of structure and then taking price to the upside. This may also only happen tomorrow on Friday, but very likely that this could take place now on Thursday. Given, I think more especially given that we've consolidated the entire weekend, we haven't really taken out any sort of significant high or low as we've consolidated. The breakout now on Thursday does seem likely, and I like that we've been hovering above a key area for some time. So yeah, that's a good, really good pair to watch out for. So yeah, if there are pairs to keep an eye out for, I think USD it's moved quite a bit. Euro USD hasn't moved quite as much, which makes me gives me the impression that there's more steam sort of in the tank for that. We've swept that low nicely into a key area and looking to push higher. So I do like how that's shaping up. USD's JPY isn't a favorite. Like I said, I'm not going to pay too much attention there. USD CAD is in quite a good area, daily area. We swept that weekly low. Only thing is we have moved quite a bit, and so yeah, it's not. It may not play out this week. I think it may be something for early next week, but something I'll definitely keep an eye out for. But you can see it's Thursday, and pairs have moved, but there is still so much opportunity left in the week. And I think sometimes we rush to get into setups or opportunities early in the week. And it's this, underlying FOMO that the market's going to play out quickly and we're going to miss the setups. And yeah, we won't be able to capitalize on these opportunities, but we are now in the second half of the week. And even though there have been opportunities that have played out, there are still a lot more to capitalize on. And if you're too focused on that which you've missed, then you'll just continue to miss, the opportunities that are present today. So this is just a breakdown of how the pairs that have been on watch have developed. Let me know if you want to see more of these breakdowns and I guess analysis or forecasting videos. And again, if you enjoyed this, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more. Remember that consistency is the choice you make when you start doing the things you know you should be doing day in and day out.